I'm here with Jason Bagley, Senior Director of State Government Relations at Intel, and I've worked with Jason on the side of Jason, or certainly part of what Jason's been doing for well over 10 years. I remember, Jason, the interactions you would lead at the Arizona Chamber, and the knowledge that you impart and the market sensibility that you impart. I've always respected that in you. And now today, with all of that experience, it's coming to benefit both Intel and the supply chain, because you've got the technology, you've got the knowledge, you've got the foresight to be able to be ready for what's coming. And what's coming today is very different than the market 10 years ago. Unfortunately, now all of that experience is going to benefit everyone. Could you give us a sense of what's happening with Intel, what you'd like the supply chain to learn about what's going on, and then what can they expect in the future?
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity very much, Doug, and hope that those who are participating will get some value out of what is discussed here today. So Intel is in the middle of the quest. Our CEO Pat Gelsinger, when he came on board just a couple of years ago now. Of course, Pat had been with Intel previously for about 30 years and was one of the innovators inside of the company. He did many things to help set Intel on the trajectory that resulted in just tremendous advances over the years. Well, he left for roughly 10 years, came back as our CEO, and with his return, established a vision that our board of directors is very supportive of. We call it our IDM 2.0 vision. And basically what that means is that Intel is going to continue to be an innovator. We are a great American company. After all, we brought the world the semiconductor, the microchip back in the day, and worked to establish the United States as kind of the hub of semiconductor-related innovation. And of course, the world has changed. All of us are very familiar with what that looks like. The pandemic really brought to a head the challenges of the current situation. And that situation is an imbalance in the global supply chain for semiconductors, with Asia being a very dominant player and being in a position where the market and the end user of semiconductor products was put into a position of not being able to get what they need. And we had large swaths of the economy come to a standstill. And we are working to change that. We're betting the company on a new vision of what a semiconductor manufacturer should look like. Not only are we always going to innovate and drive our innovation, manufacture in-house, but standing up this foundry service with Intel Foundry Services. We're going to provide Intel technology and leadership, not only in microprocessor technology and manufacturing, but advanced packaging services. And Intel is a world leader in our packaging technology, bringing that all together to provide robust capability and opportunities for our customers. But going back to rebalancing, so with that dominance of Asia, it became very clear that for the interests of the United States, for the benefit of consumers, there needed to be a shift. Now, that doesn't mean that we're pulling out of Asia. We've been operating in Asia for over 50 years now, and doing so very successfully. It's an important market. They are an important player in the semiconductor ecosystem, and they will continue to fill that function. But what's different is that we are working to drive a rebalance of moving to about a 50-50 representation of capability. 50% in Asia, 50% between the United States and the EU. And that's our vision of what would constitute a rebalancing of that. We'd like to see that by 2030. And with that is coming significant efforts to increase factories, fabs, to increase our packaging capability and other aspects of what does it mean to have a semiconductor presence in the United States in every aspect. And so we're on the path to be spending about $100 billion over the next 5 years in the United States to increase our capacity and our capabilities here. We advocated very aggressively with the United States government to get them to pursue the most impactful industrial policy since World War II, which is the CHIPS Act, and that has been enacted in policy, and now it's been funded, and now we are about to hopefully in the very near future see some of those dollars flow to help the United States companies and those businesses locating in the United States relating to semiconductors to be able to compete on a more even playing field as our Asian friends. And so with that also brings the supply chain. It is in many respects dominated in Asia, and just as with the manufacturing and so forth, the supply chain also needs to have some rebalance, and we're starting to see that. Intel historically has done a good job, I think, of being able to have robust, redundant supply chains. So as different things have happened around the world that have constrained supplies for some companies, Intel has been able to largely navigate that without too much difficulty. And much of that speaks to a lot of the strategic planning that has taken place at the company and people involved in that to be able to make sure that we can continue to do what we do. But as the capability to manufacture grows in the United States in particular, there is going to need to be some rebalancing of that supply chain. And so you see countries like Canada and Mexico, for example, really taking an active role in analyzing what they can contribute. Now, the fact is that those two countries, they're just not in a position where a semiconductor business is going to just land a fab, put a $20 billion fab in their country right now. It may come down the road, certainly, but right now, that's probably not a realistic opportunity. However, plugging into the supply chain absolutely is. And so that's an area that we're seeing a lot of movement on, and a tremendous amount of interest being expressed by both governments in what they can do to participate more actively in the semiconductor supply chain. So that's really encouraging, and we're very excited about that. The other thing that we're starting to see, and I'll use the example of our Ohio greenfield site, which is under construction. We're building two fabs in New Albany, just outside of Columbus, in Ohio. Those two factories are, in fact, are the same fabs that we have under construction in Arizona at our manufacturing site there. But with that new greenfield site, we're seeing this convergence of suppliers who are wanting to locate to Ohio. Keeping in mind, Ohio really did not have a semiconductor ecosystem to speak of. Now, before we located our factories there, we had Intel had suppliers in Ohio, and we were drawing upon Ohio expertise. But we're now seeing a rapid acceleration of suppliers locating to Ohio. We're seeing the same thing even in our well-established sites, Oregon, Arizona, New Mexico, for example, where we have large manufacturing operations in those states. We're seeing more suppliers located to take advantage of the growth and to be able to ensure that they are able to participate more fully. So this is all very exciting. One of the most significant things that we're seeing now is the active participation of public investment. So these are taxpayer dollars at the federal level and the local level being allocated to help accelerate the growth and deployment of semiconductor capacity in the United States, from research and development to the actual chip manufacturing to advanced packaging operations. All of those areas are being funded and invested in through the CHIPS Act, and Intel is playing an active role in that. We have submitted applications that are under consideration, and hopefully we'll hear in the near future about what that might look like from Intel's standpoint. So with that said, Doug, maybe I'll pause there and see if you have any questions for me, or if you want to address another area.
Sure. No, though, great information. There were a couple things that I noted through that, and certainly I heard that there's opportunity for the companies within the supply chain, given this rebalancing that's going on. It sounds like the centers in Arizona and Ohio to participate, going forward in the future. Could you just say a couple words about kind of Intel's overall supply chain strategies and how companies that are either presumably involved already in some way, and then maybe other companies, whether they're American companies or others, should be viewing this rebalancing as an opportunity, or certainly as some sort of a positive for the future for them?
I think it's definitely an opportunity, where you have this. The reality is that 50 years ago, geopolitics, economies were all driven by where the oil is found. And oil certainly plays a significant role in our modern economy today, no question. But what we are seeing, and what Intel absolutely believes in, is where the fabs are located now are going to drive opportunity. It'll drive the economy in the future. And so where these fabs are being located are creating these huge hubs of semiconductor excellence, of the ecosystem. They drive tremendous opportunities for all kinds of players. And one of the things that Intel is doing is recognize that we not only want to be dealing with global players. I mean, we want to be dealing with the best, and those companies that can deliver on their commitments and do it in a high quality, competitive way. We also recognize that there are a lot of players who may have a little more challenge getting visibility, but are equally competitive and provide tremendous services. And I'm talking about smaller businesses, more local businesses, and diverse owned, minority owned companies, veteran owned companies, and so forth. And so Intel, our global supply chain management group, has a strategy in place to specifically focus on opportunities for some of these smaller companies, and particularly underrepresented minority-owned businesses. And so we have programs in place that are taking an active look at these companies, and it's really quite exciting to see. Again, going back to Ohio as an example, we are seeing a number of efforts underway there to educate and inform, and then to give these companies an opportunity to have a look in terms of Intel looking at them and evaluating their businesses. And so some of this is also going to require, over the years, being able to help some of these companies to stand up and to get to the point where they can more effectively compete. And so Intel is going to be working with them. So there's going to be opportunity. It's not just for the big, massive global entities that that have been around for a long time, that are the ones you traditionally might see in the supplier space, but it's expanding. And so with this reshoring efforts, this rebalancing effort that is underway, it is creating a tremendous opportunity for the supply chain that we haven't seen in years and years.
I've got one more question that relates to the market, and I think I'm probably going to date myself. However, most of my career has been with the DuPont company, and there were materials that we provided, particularly products like Calres, which is used in the semiconductor industry for high purity operations. And from those days, my recollection was that the semiconductor industry was very cyclic, and it would go through these boom and bust cycles, and we as a business in the supply chain would prepare by being diverse, like having automotive, which also was cyclic, but hopefully the cycles didn't coincide, and very often they didn't historically. However, I think what we're seeing is kind of something very different from 10, 20, 30 years ago, which is a real drive in the market around data, and artificial intelligence is driving it. So are we past a lot of this cyclicality for the semiconductor industry? And could you talk a little bit about how you view the market going forward, and the importance of artificial intelligence in driving that market?
Yeah, Doug, that is a really, really good question. I've been with Intel 22 years now, and over the course of my career, it seems like you were either standing on the accelerator because you can't go fast enough, or you're stomping on the brake because you can't slow down fast enough. It just has always seemed that there hasn't been kind of a smooth trajectory. And that has been, that cyclical nature of the semiconductor industry that you referred to. I think what we are definitely seeing is the digitization of everything. And with that, this enormous growth in data. And for a number of years now, there have been massive amounts of data being gathered, the vast majority of which just sits there. Nothing is done with it. It's just sitting there on hard drives and so forth, and not really being used to help inform decision making, or to help with innovation or whatever. And what technology like artificial intelligence is going to do, it's going to help cut through the massive amounts of information, the massive amounts of data, and be able to, depending on what it's asked to do, it's going to now be able to sift through that and be able to gather meaningful information, meaningful elements of data that will inform decision makers on how to solve a problem. So this gets to enterprise systems. This gets to large functions where large amounts of data can help inform very meaningful decisions, and to do so in a very quick way. Public infrastructure, in healthcare, and any matter of transportation related infrastructure as well, and technology. There are huge opportunities. Smart city, mobile technology, and so forth. I mean, it covers this wide gamut. Well, this also gets down to the individual user. Intel is working to incorporating artificial intelligence into our technology is one of the top priorities at Intel right now, and we are working to embed AI into our core products. Intel is going to ship tens of millions of PCs this year that have AI capability embedded in the system and into our products, and we want to be able to turn loose the capacity of humans to innovate, of humans to be able to do things that they haven't been able to do before. And it really is going to represent this breakthrough opportunity for people to be able to leverage information and data in ways that they never have before. And so integrating artificial intelligence is something that Intel is actively involved in. We are working to ensure that is incorporated into our products, to the offerings that we have for our customers, and ultimately the end user is going to benefit tremendously from that.
Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for the leadership of Intel Corporation. We really appreciate you sharing this information to the Global Chamber Global Semiconductor Summit here at our headquarters within Thunderbird School of Global Management. Are there any final comments that you'd like to make? And again, thank you for your support.
Thanks, Doug. Just a shout out to you and the organization, Thunderbird in general. Really appreciate everything that you folks do to elevate it. At a time where the politics of our day can seem very insular and seem to be retreating. You are helping to ensure that there's recognition and appreciation for the capabilities and benefits of staying connected on a global basis. And so I think the work that you're doing is absolutely tremendous. And I guess the last thing I would say is Intel appreciates the opportunities that we have and the position that we're in to help ensure that the United States in particular is in a position to continue innovating, to ensure that what we do gets spread all around the world to ultimately lift and better the lives of every person on the planet. That's what we hope to be able to accomplish. We believe we're headed in the right direction. And again, thank you for the opportunity to spend some time with you today.
Borders that trade require fewer soldiers. The technology and the innovation that you're bringing to the world elevates people's lives in very special ways. Thank you for sharing today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ed.